We got more roommate drama.
When I first moved to New York, I lived with a Victoria's Secret model who had a secret, and I kept it for 10 years, but let's get into it. We met when she first moved here. We had mutual friends in like the nightlife scene, went out a good bit together. She ended up moving into the same apartment as me with a bunch of models. Right off the bat, the vibes were off. She loved to one-up people. She was also younger than everyone, so I thought maybe it was just an insecurity thing.
Oh, tell us who. Tell us who. I know you're not going to, but like, I want to know who it is.
But this girl was getting like major contracts and had major meetings with like Stephen Meisel. She was meeting Naomi Campbell. She was definitely it for that year and that season. And she wanted all the girls to know it and like just be jealous of her, which I thought was strange. But normal girl behavior, okay? Then I started noticing the lies, pathological, lying about who she was, where she came from, mutual friends, stories, like things that happened recent and also things that happened in her childhood. And it was just confirmed that all of it was a lie. So because of that, I distanced myself a good bit. I kind of saw what she was, saw right through her, if you will. And I kept my distance. But I started to notice that things were going missing in the apartment. Like little t-shirts, skincare stuff, makeup, and then prescription pills. Started talking to my other friends about it. I'm like, I feel like I'm crazy, but this wasn't here and this and that. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, me too.
And if she really is that successful, why are you stealing my stuff? Why are things going missing? You're a Victoria's Secret model. What do you need my little t-shirt for?
Oh, until one day, she came into the apartment after going to some party. It was during Fashion Week and it was a huge, huge event. And she was wearing the shirt that I wore 2 days prior. And I knew it was my shirt because it still had my orange makeup at the top and that wasn't her shade. And also it's a really unique shirt. I had a glass of wine, so I confront the girl and I say, nice shirt. She said, yeah, I got it on set for this campaign, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, literally it has my makeup on it, dude. You're not slick. She gets dressed, goes to the Harper Bazaar's icon party. And I have another glass of wine and look at the girls and say, girls, I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm going through all of her stuff. And that's what I did. And I was horrified to find that she stole things from every single person in the apartment. Weird things like pen and cups, tons of prescription medicine that she would not have been able to use. But this is the grossest part. She would keep all of her trash, dirty, used tissues that she would, wipe her nose, her butt. Like you'd see like poo on them. She'd keep them all in her suitcase that was kept in our apartment. It was so foul. I still have the pictures on my phone to this day of the contents of that suitcase. We took her suitcase out on our balcony that night and our apartment stunk so much less immediately. It was so foul. Because of that alone, we kicked her out that day and we still see her around, but it's really awkward. Oh, and now she's like super famous and doing really well. And ever since that summer, she's blown up and just makes so much money. And you guys love her on this app. But she's a kleptomaniac with personality disorder and she's a pathological liar. So, the more you know.
Who is it? I am dying to know. You never know. You never know what's going on behind closed doors of who someone really is. I mean, I could be crazy. Y'all are like, Joss, that's not a secret. We already know.
This is a PSA to all my girls out there. Do not get your roommates off Facebook. I'm finally moving out of the hellhole that I've been in since December, and I can finally speak on it.
Yeah, those pictures. That's enough for me. 60 days notice. I'm out of there.
When I tell you this girl that I lived with was just f***ing batch, I mean it. Like, where do I even begin? First of all, let's start with maybe the fact that she said slur one of my first days there. Yes, the slur chink, yeah. She is not Asian. She's very obsessed with Asian culture, though. But that doesn't mean you get to say slurs. We have a gas stove. She would turn it on and leave it on as a heater. We also wanted to put tinfoil around the stove to stop the oil splatters and the cat hair from attracting. Her own cat's hair, by the way. Insane. Constantly leave the front door unlocked or leave her keys in the front door because she's just so goddamn lazy. Had 2 cats, did not take care of them. Only found out they had fleas because my cat contracted the fleas and I care about my cat. Never cleaned her cat's litter box and therefore stink up the whole place, and also the cats would just pee on our stuff in the living room. When I moved in, I swear to God, the fridge, you could smell it from the front door, and when I went to open it, it had hundreds of dead flies, and moldy food in dishes, literal like visible bacteria on the Brita.
Oh my god, this is an actual nightmare for me. I can't handle mess like that, I'm not kidding. It's like one of the OCD. Oh, I couldn't do it. I'm scared to go on. You already listed like 25 things.
And you want to know what happened? I cleaned out that fridge for 3 hours, deep cleaned it. I took the Brita out. She was like, you need to get me a new Brita filter. There was visible bacteria on your Brita filter. And no, she did not say thank you for cleaning the fridge that she had been making disgusting for 3 years. And no, she did not work to upkeep the cleaning that I did for the 8 months that I lived here. She would also frequently just disappear on like vacations and not really tell us.
You guys, if you missed that, I read it quick. I went, my brain. She was just saying, hey, clean the fridge, you know. If you have leftover food, maybe put it in like a Tupperware container. Yeah, that's all it was.
She was going out, and then my other roommate would have to find out, and she would just leave her cats and just pour food in a bowl and not tell us. So then we'd have to refill her cats' food and water because they were starving to death. According to my other roommate, she's lost her key upward of 10 times. She got really mad at me one morning because she lost her key and she was pounding on the door, and it was like 7 a.m. and I was really sick, so I was like sleeping, and obviously I woke up and I trudged over to the door because I was feeling really sick, and I opened it up. Oh, there she is, let her in, and I just trudged back to my room because already at the point, this girl had said slurs. She had like ridiculed the way that I drive, and she doesn't have a license. She had ridiculed the way that I treat my cats, and she has nowhere to talk about that. But later in an argument, she said that I was rude, and I said, where? And she said, you like don't greet me with a smile when you open the door. I was sick. You were pounding on the door. Don't lose your key. Anything. I
also am getting concerned about her being a cat owner, if I'm being honest. Because if it wasn't for you guys taking care of them, who would?
Cat piss, dogs that she was doing like Rover for, dogs shitting, didn't clean it up. Cats knocked over the trash can. Who gives a Me and my roommate once did an experiment. My other roommate, we did an experiment where we left the trash can knocked over and didn't pick it up after her cats for 3 days straight, and she didn't pick it up. She just walked past it.
A turd on the floor. That crosses so many lines. This is giving me anxiety.
Duped me in the beginning, by the way, saying like, we have a household system down, we all kind of like take care of each other's chores and dishes, and we take turns taking out the trash. So when I moved in, I wanted to be a good roommate and like uphold the household values or whatever, so I was like doing her dishes, until I realized she didn't actually do dishes at all, or take out the trash, ever, or clean. And then when we finally were like, hey, you need to do your dishes, she would just like dump them into the dishwasher and then leave them in there to get musty. Not to mention her being consistently late on rent and owing my other roommate like $800. I'm sure there's more that will come up, but that's just the start.
I don't think I can handle more, if we're being completely honest. If you had just told that story, I don't know if it would have had the same effect as seeing the physical pictures of the cat pee and the turd. Not to mention just the daily mess that I'd be living in. Couldn't be me. I don't know, maybe you guys can handle like a mess like that. Maybe it doesn't affect everyone the same. I mean, clearly it doesn't affect everyone the same. That girl had no problem living like that.
Here's the story of how my freshman year roommate bullied me to the point that I almost transferred out of my school. I really heavily debated telling the story, but at the same time, it's my story to tell, and she silenced me literally the entire time that I knew her. So I went to a college 3.5 hours away from my house, and when I first went there, I only knew a couple older people, and they weren't living in the freshman dorm, so I had to go random. I was given a random dorm. I got really lucky. My dorm was huge, and I was also given a random roommate. That roommate ended up dropping out within 5 days of us moving in. So now I am alone in a huge room, and my RA is starting to DM me and ask me, okay, so there's a lot of girls on your floor right now that aren't getting along with their roommates. Would you be willing to room with one of them? And I was like, no, I want the room to myself. At this point, it's about 2 to 3 weeks into college, and I had already made a friend group. None of these girls lived in the same quad that I was in. They lived on a different part of campus. One of which, she lived in a single that was in a suite. And now this is the roommate that the story's about. We're gonna call her Anna. Every single day, my RA is DMing me saying, okay, I'm looking for a new replacement for your roommate. Your room needs to be filled. It cannot be a single. And Anna is telling me and all my friends that we had already made that she hates her suite mates. They're being really rude to her. She's having a hard time because her suite was literally the size of a closet. All of us are getting along great. Anna seems to really want to leave this room, so I asked my RA if she can move into my room. By mid-September, Anna is officially living with me. We had a bunch of our guy friends help move her into my quad, into my room, and it seemed awesome. When she moved into my room, we were having a great time. I finally had someone to talk to almost 24/7. We had very similar class schedules. We were majoring in the same thing, so it seemed like we were really getting along great.
Man, this sounds like such a fun story. I'm so sad that this goes sour. I'm like, man, this is like what you see in movies, like what college is like.
And our friends that we all made, they would come to our room all the time. A lot of our friends were on sports teams, and we had the room that was really close to the staircase to lead to the athletic center, so everyone would stop by. It was so much fun. We even got a hamster together, and that hamster lived for almost 4 years.
Aww.
I'm the kind of friend where if I have a friendship with someone, we can make fun of each other here and there, but it's not to the point that it becomes insult humor. Because I don't find insult humor funny. I find it extremely hurtful when it continues over and over again. So when Anna moved into my room, she automatically started pointing out the fact that like all of her items were pretty dark colored, navy blue, dark green, black, and my stuff was all pink and purple because I love pink and purple. She made it a point to tell me that like my stuff was too girly and that she has the cooler stuff because it's darker and more mysterious. Okay. That was the first moment where I was like, why does it matter? Why are you making a point to make fun of my things with the guys around? She would specifically really make fun of me when there was boys around.
Ooh, that's called jealousy, insecurities, projecting.
At first I thought that this was a joke, so I was like, oh, I don't know, I just bought it at Marshall's, whatever. Now fast forward to October, and these snide remarks start becoming so consistent that I start to pick up on the fact that she's just being extremely mean to me. Anna had a long-term boyfriend that she had from back home. I was single, and I was just having the college experience, so whenever I would go out, and Anna prided herself on the fact that she hated going out. I would go out with the other girls in our friend group, and I would have a great time. I was really enjoying the fact that I was able to go party with them. I really liked having the college experience. And Anna would make fun of me for that. She would wake up the next morning after I would go out and she'd be like, all right, what nonsense did you cause last night? Or she would love to say like, oh, what ugly boy gave you interest or attention last night?
Ew.
And I would stand up to her and then she would just come back with something so nasty. Like one time she told me that my hair looked terrible in a ponytail and I actually didn't wear my hair in a ponytail for way after this friendship ended. But I told her, listen, like that's not funny. I actually really worked hard on this hairstyle. And she goes, yeah, well, that's why your mom doesn't love you. Like, what? The most hurtful thing that this girl did was comment on the fact that her relationship with her mother was so much better than mine with my mother. Because at this point, me and my mom were just really not seeing eye to eye. I really didn't call her often. We just had a little bit of distance. This was something extremely personal that I did share with Anna because she lived with me and she saw me, upset about the situation. We had a lot of heart-to-heart moments where I would tell her something personal and then she would go around and turn it around against me.
Ooh, I hate people like that. When you confide with them in something and then later in an argument, they kind of throw it in your face and it's like, oh, I wish I never told you that.
So I shared with her that I was having a hard time with my mom, and she specifically went out of her way in front of the entire friend group when they were over in my room to point out that her mom was coming into town and they were going to have a wine night. My parents did not let me drink underage. In front of everyone, she goes, yeah, well, my mom loves me, we're having a wine night, your mom hates you and she doesn't let you do anything. This was so insanely hurtful to me, and I know that in this situation, everyone else around was just like, what? Standing up to this girl just made this situation so much worse, and every time that I voiced my opinion on what she was saying, she would just come back with something so much nastier. Anytime I would go out or I had like a low-cut top, it was always, oh my god, your boobs are so small, you're so hideous, no one's ever gonna love you because you have no boobs.
I'm telling you, if anyone... Oh my god. Y'all are gonna think I'm crazy. Maybe I should just keep my thoughts to myself. But I'm not letting anyone talk to me that way. Let me tell you, one remark, and I will make sure she doesn't speak to me that way again. And if she does, we're gonna have a problem. Thank God I was never in a dorm or put with somebody because I don't know if that would ever work.
And she would put me down almost every single time that I wanted to go out. End of October was parents' weekend, and I decided to invite my parents and my little brother. I said, listen, there's supposed to be a football game, there's supposed to be a lot of fun, all of my friends are inviting their parents. And I specifically made it a point to tell Anna, we need to get all the alcohol out of the room. My parents are very against it. They will be really upset if they see it in the room. I drilled this into this girl's head. I think for the entire week leading up to parents' weekend, I was telling her every single day, make sure we're limiting it, make sure we're getting it out. And she would just come back and be like, oh my god, you're so annoying, you've already said this 30 times. Finally, it's the day before parents' weekend, and Anna's mom and dad, I believe, came into town. I met them both. They were so sweet. I don't know how they raised this absolute monster, but I deep cleaned the room. Anna cleaned a little bit. I was usually the one that was doing most of the cleaning. I made sure that all the visible alcohol that I could find was out of the room and gone. Anna loved these giant pink Smirnoff screwdrivers, and she had a mini fridge that she contributed to the room, and it was on my side of the room. I didn't use it often, but it was still there, and it was my mistake for not checking it. because when my parents showed up, they start going through my room. They think that it's, you know, a really nice setup. This was their first time seeing my room since they moved me in before the previous roommate dropped out. So the room was completely different than the last time that they saw it. And one of the first things my dad does is open up the mini fridge. And what does he find? Anna's screwdriver right in the middle. When I saw that, I just had a feeling that there was malicious intent behind her leaving that bottle in there, because I made it so unbelievably clear.
But why can't you just say that's my roommate's? That's the truth. But either way, can't you just be like, that's not mine? So what does it do you? I can't control her. That's her alcohol. She can do what she wants.
That we needed to take all of it out. And it was still in there. And I know for a fact she was the one that cleaned out the fridge because it was technically her fridge. And my parents lost their minds. I explained to them that it wasn't mine. They were extremely upset with me, and parents' weekend was completely destroyed. My mom was like really upset with me to the point that she like almost barely spoke to me. And finally, after a couple of hours of us just being really tense and just awkward around each other, I told them to go home. So after they left, we got into a really big argument. It was a very nasty end of the situation. I confronted Anna and I told her, listen, why was this in there? I told you so many times to get it out. And yes, I could have checked, but it completely slipped my mind. I was focusing on the rest of the room. She blew it back in my face and said, well, it's your fault for not checking it since you were so obsessed with all of it being out of the room. And then she made fun of my parents and I for getting into an argument and told me how great of a time she's having with her mom and how I will never have that because my parents don't love me. And then this bullying just escalated into a daily offense. I had a communal shower in my hall where I lived.
Guys, what do you guys think about that? I don't think it's her fault necessarily. If she did that on purpose, that would suck. But if she just forgot to check the fridge as well as you did, or forgot like, oh, I just forgot it in there and I meant to take it out, but I didn't, the same way you forgot to check, I don't think it's her fault that you're like the argument's happening. It's her alcohol. That's her room. That's her fridge. She can technically have alcohol in that fridge.
And I would specifically go into that shower and spend over 2 hours in it when I knew that Anna was in our room. I was trying to avoid her. And then she would spin it on me and tell all the guys that we were friends with that I stink so bad that I have to take such long showers. And everyone would make fun of me for taking these long showers, which it only takes me about 10 minutes to like really shower. I was sitting in there for over 2 hours, sometimes upwards of 3, just to avoid her. So Thanksgiving break is coming up. At this point, we're at the end of November. And I'm freaking out the weeks leading up to it because I don't want to go home. Like I said, me and my parents were in tense waters. We weren't really getting along. So I did not want to go home for Thanksgiving break, but my school mandates you to go home. So as I'm voicing my concerns to Anna and telling her that I'm really stressed out to go home, she would just laugh at me and say, well, you're just a terrible daughter because who wouldn't want to see their family for Thanksgiving? And then she would tell me how excited she is for Thanksgiving, how her family's so perfect, how she hates college and how she hates the dorm food and how she is so excited to get real food, and just telling me how awesome her life is and just how perfect it's going to be for Thanksgiving, like rubbing it in my face. We go home for Thanksgiving. I had a terrible time. I just wanted to go back to college almost the entire time. And when I came back, she was so angry to see me. She's like, oh my God, the break was so short. I'm really upset to see you. I don't want to look at you. Like, go away. Basically just like shooing me away. And I was just so excited to be back. So she like diminished my happiness almost. Leading up to Christmas break, we start hearing about COVID because my freshman year, I was in college the fall 2019 going into spring 2020. That was my freshman year.
What went wrong? I guess she was always like this, but just hit it better in the beginning when you guys were friends. And again, this is one side to the story. You know, maybe Anna has, is her name Anna? We're just calling her Anna. Maybe Anna has a very different view to the story.
Once again, Christmas break is coming up now, and I'm super upset because I don't want to go home. I was in this one psychology class with Anna, except we had different times, but the same professor, and I was doing absolutely terrible in this class. This professor was insanely harsh. So when she would ask me what I got on a test and we would compare our scores, she would call me stupid and that I'm going to fail out of college and not amount to anything. This girl was actually insane now that I'm like telling the story. Honestly, the break was really nice because I actually got to spend some time at home. I worked a little bit, and as much as I didn't like spending time at home, I was away from Anna. We come back, and now speculations of COVID are really starting to get more and more concerning. I'm telling everyone, oh my gosh, I am so nervous for COVID. I really don't want this to happen. I don't want to get sent home. I hate going home. Once again, Anna's coming in saying that I'm a terrible person. And finally, it's the weekend before COVID sends us all home. I was dying to go out with the other girls in our friend group and some of the guys, and I was ready to go, and Anna literally did not let me leave the room. She made me stay in, and to this day, I regret not standing up to her. But I was scared of her, and I don't blame myself. Anna left before anyone else, and she literally just threw all of her things into a truck and left. No goodbye, no nothing. I had to text her to tell her, hey, listen, did you leave? She was like, yeah, I'm actually on my way home. And she turned around and finally came back to say goodbye. Like, she was just gonna up and leave and like not say anything. I never saw her again after that. I ended up cursing her out over Snapchat a couple weeks later because she was being absolutely rude to me and I just had it. She sent me a text recently trying to like rekindle and like tell me how much she misses me. I didn't answer, and that's where the story ends.
That's wild. I mean, I wouldn't have tolerated that from day one. I would have stood up. I get that's easier said than done because everyone is different on how they handle things. And maybe not everyone has the courage to stick up for themselves in that way. And I get people can be intimidating, especially when you're living with them. But yeah, I feel like she almost kept acting that way towards you because she knew she could. Because you didn't, you know, stand up to her, unfortunately.
Freshman year of college, I had a roommate that was literally from hell. And I'm finally ready to talk about it, so let's talk about it. Freshman year of college, I had a different roommate fall semester and spring semester. And that is because I canceled my dorming lease to move in with my psycho ex-boyfriend, and then he ended up kicking me out of his house. So I had nowhere to live, so I moved into this girl's apartment. We're gonna call her Linda. I've known Linda for a while. We met through Facebook and we became really, really close. We hit it off really well, and she had a roommate move out of her dorm, and she had one of the nicer dorms, and she offered me to come stay with her in her dorm for the rest of the semester. So after hopping dorm to dorm for like 2 weeks, I moved in with her and we had a blast. I literally loved her. Like, I thought we were gonna be best friends forever. Also, keep in mind, her fall semester roommate had moved out because she was telling me how she thought she was crazy. Linda told me that she thought her roommate was crazy, but turns out it was Linda that was crazy.
Oh yeah, it's always the crazy one doing the little reverse psychology. That person's crazy, and then you find out that they're the crazy one.
She told me she went through her roommate's like Apple Watch and her diary and just found out that she was like low-key a bitch or whatever, and just found out how her roommate ended up actually not liking her, and that's how she found out. And I was like, oh, you went through her stuff? Like, that's how you found out? But it never like registered in my mind. Like, that should have been my first red flag, that she literally went through her old roommates, all her personal belongings.
Yeah, probably a red flag you don't want to ignore.
So we get close really, really fast. It was so much fun being in this friendship. Like, it felt so new. I finally felt like I found someone that like was really, really identical to me. But we had way too many things in common. Like, it was almost too good to be true. Like, we were literally the same exact person, except we weren't. Every day started becoming a competition. She never complimented me. I always complimented her. She would ask to borrow my clothes, and I would willingly like let her borrow my clothes, my hair stuff, everything, like everything. And if I asked her to borrow something, she'd be like, no. But I could never say no to her, or she would have a tantrum. As the days go by, I start realizing she's just like not really nice to me. Like, she's so mean to me. So when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend and he had, you know, I came like rushing to our dorm after everything happened. She like locked me out, wouldn't let me in. She told me she was at work, and I told her what happened, and she was like, okay, like what? Like, she kind of was like believing me, not believing me. And she didn't care about me and if I was okay. The first thing she kept asking me was, did my ex-boyfriend go through our text messages, because she had been cheating on her boyfriend at the time. And I was the only one that knew. And the night that she started cheating on her boyfriend, she also told me and the other girl that we were out with, we had gone to this club. She told us that for the first time, she's finally hanging around with girls that are like on her level. And she said that like girls in her high school were like nothing compared to her. And like, she was just like so much better than them. Like,
there's so many qualities about this person that I don't particularly like. I feel like I would never vibe with her from day one. We would never vibe.
And that's when I started to realize something was really off with her. And everyone that was friends with her in the past that told me not to be friends with her, people that have gone to high school that go to college with me, were telling me like, be careful of her, she's insane. And I had her back the entire time. Like, I literally fully supported her, defended her. I was her biggest hype man. I was such a good person to her. And every time someone would say something bad about her, I'd be like, no, like, she's so awesome. Like, you just don't know the way I know her. That was my downfall. I never saw right through her. This gave me so many red flags. Later in the spring semester, we get into a feud because I thought Jacob Elordi was hot, and so did she, and she thought I was copying her. So she kicks me out of the dorm.
Every red flag was there. I mean, from day one. That's fine. I guess you gotta live through it. Before moving on, we're hopping on hydration station. And because I'm violently ill this week, I am hydrating extra. I don't think I've ever drank this much water in my life than what I have this week because I had the flu. And you can probably just tell. I look like Hagrid from Harry Potter. Cheers. Drink some water so you don't get sick like me. Although clearly that's not working for me.
So I got into literally, I think the biggest fight I've ever gotten into with my roommate last night. And I don't know if you can tell by these awful dark circles and under eye bags, but I literally got no sleep. And honestly, I want to talk about it because number one, I'm still so hurt and angry and upset that I just need to get it out. And also some of you might relate to having an awful roommate situation. And she's blocked on everything, by the way, so she's not going to see this. But my girl roommate, I live with a couple, so her and her boyfriend, she is quite literally one of the most disrespectful and inconsiderate people I think I've ever met in my life. We have had problems in the past, but I have always obviously wanted a very peaceful and livable household. So when we have had issues in the past, we've been able to sit down and have been like, look, you know, this is what happened, and this is kind of like how it made me feel. Like, let's figure this out, basically. I don't want to live in a hostile environment, and I need fucking peace in my life. And I've just come to realize that this person is so deeply inconsiderate and probably so deeply miserable in her own existence as a human being that she can't live peacefully and she can't approach issues peacefully.
Living in a hostile environment has to be one of the worst feelings in the world, because that's supposed to be like your safe haven that you come home to every day.
Regardless of who it is that you live with, no two people are the same, okay? So you're gonna have different ways of living, and things are just gonna come up in a roommate situation. And the way you communicate when these problems come up and the way you handle it says everything. Anyway, so I'm at work and she starts blowing up my phone over an issue that could have been resolved had we had an in-person conversation and sat down. But instead, she literally f***ing attacked me and said I've never been spoken to this way. Like the most disgusting, foul-ass f***ing language. My best friend and I have been friends for 8 years. We lived together previously for 3 years. We've gotten into some fights, okay? In any friendship, you're gonna have a fight. My best friend and I have never ever once spoken to each other this way, or ever even remotely got as close to being as disrespectful as the way this talked to me last night. When we all moved in together, we had the agreement that we were not going to do the like splitting food thing. Like, this is your food, this is my food. Basically, the agreement that we came to.
Man, living with a couple, that's a bold move. I don't think I could live with a couple. Personally, that's me. I don't think I could do it.
Is if you ate something and you finish the last of it, you replace it, right? Understandable. And it's been this way for the last 6 months since we've all lived together. And so I ate and finished off the last of one of her snacks, reordered it. Literally, it arrived yesterday. And in this argument, this bitch had the audacity to say to me, you wouldn't have eaten all my food if you didn't have a raging eating disorder. Girl.
What?
What the Literally, who talks to somebody like who says something like that to a person? Especially when when we've had conversations at length about my history of disordered eating. Also, I don't know if you can hear their dog screaming his head off in the back, but every time they leave him, their dog does this and howls for hours and barks his head off. Anyway, what transpired after this conversation was basically the both of them trying to essentially intimidate me and bully me out of moving out of my own house, which is not gonna happen, okay? Paid a fat ass deposit to move into this beautiful big home. And now she wants to like act like a fucking victim. And she's like, oh, we're being, now we have to live together against our own will. She wants to act like a victim in a problem she created. And the situation has me so upset and so angry. But I've also realized, like, how sad for her. Like how sad that a grown-ass adult has, number one, 0 communication skills, 0 conflict resolution skills, and is so deeply heinous and foul and just an outright mean girl. Like, you're a mean girl at 27? Gross. And I deeply believe that people like this and who she is her own karma. And it sucks that I have to live with this evil bitch for 6 more months, but it is what it is.
6 more months after that? Ooh, you're being tested. You're gonna be tested in the 6 months. That's stooping to a whole other level of low. Even if someone didn't suffer from an ED, why would you ever say that to somebody? Very insensitive, very unnecessary, and all because you ate snacks and reordered them. Like, I need to know. There's got to be more to the story. How did this come from you finishing off one of the snacks and reordering it? How did that turn into this? I need some more details.
So I'm gonna be sharing my crazy roommate story time. So to set the stage, it was my junior year of college, and it was right before Christmas break. Yeah, and I was in a sorority and I started a spray tan business.
Love me a good spray tan.
And I asked my roommates if it was cool, like, because we had like sorority events and semis and stuff, and I like love doing spray tans. So like I started offering them to my sisters, and mind you, I gave my psycho roommate free spray tans, okay?
That's so generous of you. I love a free spray tan.
And this really set her off. She did not like that I made an Instagram. So I made an Instagram for my spray tans, and I'm out on like the Thursday before Christmas break and with like an ugly sweater party, and I get a text and she's like telling me that I owe her money for doing spray tans because I'm making the electricity bill go up. Okay, I understand that. Got it, but at the same time, you're using your our electricity to do like use your printer and stuff like that. Like, we're not using your printer. I mean, I just feel like that. Anywho, so she's like all mad about that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm coming home, but my friend had my keys and she left already, so she dropped them off at my house. And so when I get home, she like confronts me at the door and starts screaming at me. I literally have this on video. It's so iconic to watch. Like, me and all my friends, literally, we play it when we all hang out because it's so funny, like the whole fight. And so then I go up to my room and I start packing like my stuff, like, because I'm leaving, Christmas break's happening, so I'm piecing out of here.
Are you gonna tell me what she was yelling at you for though? I really wish you would have posted the fight video, if I'm being honest, because I'm nosy. But what was she screaming at you for? For the electrical bill still? Like, what?
And so as I come down the stairs, there's the police.
What?
She literally called the police on me. So the police like asked to talk to me, and so I'm talking to them, and they're like, so she tried to take money from you? And I'm like, yeah. They were like, did she get any? And I was like, no. And they basically said I did nothing wrong and they didn't know why they were there.
Wildly confused. She called the police because maybe you denied giving her money, but you also just said that you agree with that. I feel like we're missing some details. I really want to see the fight though, if I'm being very honest, and I'm pretty sure my viewers want to see the fight. So I wish you posted that instead. But stay classy out there, stay sassy, and I'll see you tomorrow.